Good. Okay, so officially welcome to the June Open Forum. Well, I've had a few apologies. I think Justine's kids have ended up with COVID and Rosina's not well, and we've got lots going on. So anyway, that's okay. This is good. I like small groups because we can really sort of dig into it. And I guess I want to introduce Jean, because the rest of you sort of know each other, but Jean and I, when did we speak? Was it last week?
Last month, yeah, 7 days ago.
Yeah. So one might, Jean, and we might all do this, because when it's a small forum, we can all maybe just introduce ourselves and just share where we're at on the journey. So everyone here has either written, and Karen's got a couple of published books, and Sue's on the way, and Joe's been stopping and starting and
lagging behind.
But he's on the way. And so Jean, why don't you just sort of, I guess, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you're here and what you hope, I guess, what your vision is for your writing.
Okay. So I'm a life coach, and Andrew contacted me a week ago, well, a little bit more than a week ago, wanting to know if I'd ever consider writing a book. And I'm a divorced single mom as well. I want to be able to support myself and my children. So writing a book is a bit of a dream, and I have started small. I'm busy writing articles for a friend of mine, generic writing, but since Andrew's conversation with me, I had a little bit of, butterflies and excitement in my tummy at the idea of doing something different, because I studied administration after school, and I worked in an IT company for 5 years, doing admin, back office. And it didn't excite me. It wasn't my passion. And helping others in my life coaching fills my cup. So yeah, having chatted to Andrew, I definitely think it's something that I want to do. And I've already started making some notes and doing some research, and joining some writing groups on LinkedIn, to do so. So that's where I'm at currently.
Yay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Normally we would have more people here, but I mean, we're all at different stages. And so what I'm going to get people to talk about is just, I guess, with the stage you're at, but why? And I know, Karen, because Karen, you're published, what are some of the things that's helped you achieve, and but why you decide you want to write a book? Because I think this will help Jean too as she's making decisions, and I know you'll get some words of wisdom, Jean, from some of these wonderful people. So Karen, we might go to you. Tell us a little bit of just bit of an intro.
Okay, so I've written 2 books. I'm an indie publisher, so I publish them myself. I've done everything from obviously writing, but also to formatting and through to publication in print and electronic means. I'm currently writing my 3rd book. I got a little stuck a few weeks ago and had a chat to Andrew, and he's given me a bit of a pep talk, and Andrew, it's worked. So I've done what you've suggested, and it's given me some guidance about where I'm going to go next with it.
Yep. Awesome.
So I'm currently rewriting it at the moment because I wasn't happy with the way that I'd written it. And I also do some editing as well. I've done some editing for people in the group. I'm not doing it to make a lot of money. I'm doing it to help people. And Andrew knows that that's what my aim is, to help people. Now, Andrew, you don't know, I don't think. I've just finished helping John Mayer.
Oh, yeah.
With a little task. Yes, awesome. He's very happy.
Good.
And what else? It took me a long time to get to the point where I was ready to publish the book. But along the way, Andrew has helped me
What's
tremendously.
one of the greatest things, Karen, you've got out of becoming an author?
My confidence.
Even personally, yeah.
Yeah, my confidence.
Yep.
Knowing that I can do it, even though there are a lot of naysayers out there saying you can't do it, you can do it. And just meeting a whole lot of other lovely, lovely people, cool. Including Andrew.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad I'm included. Oh, okay, beautiful. Thank you. Thanks, Karen. So, tell us about your inspiration to write your book and what you do, because you.
Well, I think obviously you connected with me. I think a bit like Jean, really. I think you've got this kind of delving in and out of concepts of book writing, probably since my eldest or second was born. There was this kind of started writing little notes about what I think people, I could help people, because I think, like Jean, it's about, I think all of us probably, just everyone on the whole wants to help people in some way, whether it's providing objects to actual physical help. And so that was sparked, and my background is medical, so I'm a doctor, and I'm also a mother. I'm also me, kind of interweaving between all of that. I'm a mother of older children now, and I think what I'm writing about, and I'm also a coach, so I kind of became a coach in the last kind of 10 years, and more recently got more into the lifestyle medicine side of medical life. So I'm very passionate about using lifestyle as medicine and using the secret sauce, which is the person themselves, often overlooked. It's kind of an inner drive to kind of somehow impact the world in a bigger sense. So I go from this kind of, I really want to impact the world in a bigger sense, to what the hell am I doing? I just want to help one person here or there, and that will do. So my book is a kind of an attempt to make a difference on a bigger scale. It's kind of, I suppose, a gap that I felt is there, or a gap, not even a gap, it probably is. There's so many books out there, but it's talking to the person that was me a while back, and even talking to the person that is me now, and trying to help that make it a load easier. When I actually look at my why, it's a bit vague, and I think that's, Andrew knows, I'm in this kind of like whoa moment, like Karen, you kind of get a bit stuck and start wondering what it is that you're doing, I suppose. But as Andrew tells us all, we all have this unique voice, and we all have something to offer, and that doesn't really matter at the end of the day, as long as we do what we want to do. And ironically, of course, that's a lot of what my book's about. So I've got to read my own words, really. So I think it's, and also really, I think when you are in this space, you're meeting wonderful people, and you're constantly observing. You're all I'm sure, very, very self-aware. So you're constantly watching and observing yourself from afar and thinking, goodness, I'm going through an experience here that hopefully I can put into some words. What I've really found weird, which is like a transition of my own, is, I'm very much my background and kind of a doer. I'm not a writer, as it were, but I'm becoming a writer. So like you, Jean, I'm doing articles and I'm doing little blogs here and there, and suddenly it's like, goodness, I need to actually get this identity stronger. Sitting down to write is something that I'm really finding hard. I'm very good at doing, and I'm a doer, and but then it's kind of somehow got to work on that reframe. But anyway, I could talk to you more on that, Andrew. But I think that's half the battle.
Well, I think you've raised a couple of good points, and I think
very much so.
We can develop those over the next half hour or so. I think there's a couple of things there. You said why, not maybe being clear enough on your why, and I think That's critical. And then that label, that identity piece is another big one. So we'll come back to those, because I think they're both very key for everyone, but certainly starting out in this journey. And because if you don't have clarity on why you're doing it, well, easy to get distracted. That's where shiny object syndrome can come in and knock you off course. And then the label that you give yourself, or the identity. If you say I'm not a writer, well, then what am I doing? And I know that I've had that. That's that, I guess, that imposter kind of syndrome a little bit, which we all have. Writing our first book, you speak to every author on the planet that may have written 1,000 books, and they'll say I'm the first one, and probably even their 10th one. They might be saying, "Oh, what am I doing? I'm not a good writer," and we're all our own harshest critic. So what we have to do is become our greatest ally rather than our worst enemy. That's probably the key to this whole process, is becoming your best ally. So anyway, thanks, Sue, for sharing. Joe,
yeah,
you finished eating dinner?
Sorry?
Have you finished eating? Because we'd like to see you in real life.
Oh, really? God, I got caught in the rain today, and my hairdresser's away for 6 weeks. You should see me.
That's okay. So Sue's
Probably
got
haven't
early
seen
morning.
this
Sue's got
before.
early. Sue's got early
I have
morning
friends
hair.
who don't even know I have curly hair. So
Oh, wow.
anyway, hi. Yeah, so Andrew sort of alluded to I've had a stop-start relationship with writing, and I'm actually nearly finished what I'd call 3 different products, but they're all nearly finished. And it's probably the same way I read. I've usually got a small pile of books, like 3 maybe next to me on the go. But one's a recipe book I wrote for my son, and it's written in a particular way, which I think, there's a lot of recipe books out there. I think it will actually differentiate it. But all of the recipes are actually written, but none of the photos are taken. And it's sort of like, oh my God, I don't want to sit there and have to make 50 dishes up and then photograph them. And I think I probably need a publisher to be involved, because they might want to get professional photos done anyway. So that one's just sitting there doing nothing. I've sent the written version to my son, because during lockdown, he's in his 20s, and 10 years ago I said, I'd like to teach you to cook. And he, kept refusing. And then during our big lockdown, he said, I think it might be time I started to learn how to cook. So I was actually thrilled that at least finally he'd turned around and said that. So I'd written this book with him in mind. And I guess when you look for purpose, it then became broader, in that if there were people like him who couldn't cook at his age, there would be a lot of other people who at all ages probably have never
A lot of men,
had lessons.
no idea.
Yeah. And my mum sent me to cooking classes when I was 9 years.
Joe.
Sorry? You'll buy it? Excellent. I might give you a copy, Andrew. So my mum sent me to cooking classes when I was 9 years old. So I had a very different experience of it. And the way I cook, though, is very like splash this and dash that, dash of that. So it's been a task for me to have to quantify ingredients. So it was an interesting experience. As I say, all the written bits are finished. And then I've got a product. I'm a psychologist. So I've got a product that was originally written to verify the test results of what's a less clinical personality tool called Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's very widely used for nearly 100 years now. And so I wrote this to verify the results. And I think what's held me back on this one is whether I've got any sort of breach of copyright, and I probably need to speak to a lawyer before I go any further. So I use it in my private practice. It's turned out to be a fabulous tool, even though it's only 28 questions instead of 126.
Sounds much more friendly.
It's very friendly. It's done with cartoons, so children can use it as well. And I presented at a conference about 10 years ago. 2 people in my very small audience actually bought it on the spot, and I was selling it for $400 back then.
Wow.
And anyway, I've not done anything with it. So I approached the Australian Council of Educational Research a few years back, and they said they really liked it, but they said they needed to be involved from the beginning. And here I was, the product was actually finished. So I've had like 6 sets of cards printed up, but it can actually completely run electronically, which is great in this day and age where everyone's now moved online, which is lovely and much easier than getting printing done. But once more, I've done nothing with it. And then I wrote it. My third one was I started writing a self-help book probably a bit over 10 years ago now. And then one day I was in Borders. Karen, I don't know if you have Borders in Queensland. They've gone out of business now. Do you remember Borders?
No. Oh, no, I don't.
No, you probably do, Andrew. So Borders was one of my favourite bookstores. They were so huge. They had a cafe in the middle of the bookshop. They sold stationery. I'm a big stationery fan as well as a big book fan. They sold music. Yeah, so I used to love going in there. And then one day I was in the self-help section looking around, and it's like, oh my God, like half their shop is about self-help. And I thought, why should I write one more self-help book to add to this enormous collection that's already published out there? And it just took the wind out of my sails. So this self-help book that was about 95% finished about 10 years ago has pretty much sat there. And I think I sent you a copy, Andrew, of the last draft, but not much has happened with it. So yeah, so I've just really struggled to finish anything really, except for the psych tool that I use for myself. and my clients love it. Like, it's so quick to use compared to a 2.5-hour session doing the full thing properly. So yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing, Jo. And here's the good news: you're still upright looking down at the grass, so still opportunity to finish what you started. And I think and thank you for sharing that, because I think what we've, I think all of us have highlighted the key to this process is what we say to ourselves, and that, Jo, I know exactly how you feel about going into a bookshop and seeing, my first book, as most of you know, maybe with the exception of Jean, is a nutrition-based book. So that's my first book. And I don't have, so my biggest barrier was, I don't have a nutritional qualification. I was obviously a personal trainer for a lot of years. I had a lot of lived experience, a lot of stuff that I tried and learned myself, self-education, but I didn't have any traditional education. I didn't have any qualification. So I had that little barrier, that little voice in my head going, you can't write a book, you're not on nutrition, you're not qualified. And then the other little voice, Jo, like yours, was, well, there's a million other books on nutrition. Why is yours going to be any different? Why would, and this is the work that you've got. The hardest work in the journey, as we know this, is dealing with those voices. Because if you listen to them, they will determine your life. That's the bottom line. Anyone that's done anything that you're looking at, well, that's impressive, they'll tell you it's not impressive. They just believe that they could, and they went through a process to make it happen. So it's the ability to go, hey, that's not right, that's wrong. And I think for a lot of people, it's just this, because maybe they've heard that voice for so long, they just believe it, they just accept it rather than go, that's not me. For me, as I was dealing with those two pretty significant barriers, the qualification one was, I thought, well, I'm not qualified, but wow, 15 years of experience and trying things and learning and self qualifies me absolutely to write this book. In fact, I reasoned with myself that I would be, someone's got maybe a traditional qualification won't write the book as well as I'll write it, because I'm going to write it from real lived experience. I'm going to write from a practical point of view, not a theoretical point of view. And I thought, that's way better. And then the other voice that was saying, who do you think you are, writing another book on nutrition? Why would anyone read your book? Why will it be any different? And I thought, well, it'll be different because of me, because of my voice, because of my experience and my perception and my perspective and my style. And I it's amazing that I just said, I know my voice. The way I write this is what someone needs. There are people out there that need to hear it my way, and it's amazing. I've got I got an email from, and I think I put it in my book, Accidental Author, from a girl who said, your books changed my life. And she said, I have read so many books and I tried so many things, but when I read your book, it was immediately chilling, because I knew that was me. So she needed to hear my book, my voice, my way for her. So again, it's just being able to go, what's real and what's rubbish. Yeah. And I've always, you know, even when I decided to start writing a book, I didn't know that I could. There was no proof that I couldn't. You know, like, I don't know, can I write a book? Well, is there any reason, is there any court of law that could convict me, could say undoubtedly there's no chance you'll write a best-selling book? And I thought, no, there's no one that will ever find enough evidence to support that. So therefore there's a chance I can do it. Well, that's good enough for me. Let's have a crack at this. So the voice, the self-talk is a key thing, you know, and I think if you're stuck, you know, Joe, you've been stuck a little bit and you've just got that little voice in your head, I know, saying,
which is really funny as I listen to you, because almost every day I'm actually teaching clients how to control their thoughts and deal with their inner critic.
Yeah,
so sometimes you've got to hear it.
Easy to
at the
talk
right
about
time
it.
from
It's
the
not
right
so easy
person.
to apply in your
Yeah,
own.
don't do as I do as I say.
I'm just at the moment, I'm editing a podcast. I'm doing this awesome podcast with an Irish girl or lady. She's about 30. She's living in Paris. So, and she's a body confidence coach. And, you know, she's now working with parents and teenagers about learning to love their body. And she's got, you know, she's not a svelte girl, you know, she's got some curves and rolls and stuff, but she's loud and proud and she just loves herself. And she was just saying, it's just like, you know, when you talk, she calls it the bitch. The bitch comes out, and that's that voice that talks to her. And she says, no, that's not true. That's not me. You know, and it's interesting. She said the times I won't even look at myself in the mirror. And then she said, well, what if that was a friend of mine? You know, and we all heard this. If you talk to your friends the way you often speak to yourself, you'd be a very lonely person, right? And what about if you won't look at yourself in the mirror? Imagine meeting a friend in the street and going, well, I can't look at you because, you know, it's too uncomfortable. You know, I don't want to look at you because you're so ugly. You know, you would never, ever say that to someone else, yet we say it to ourselves so freely and so easily. I'm an idiot. What's wrong with me? I'm so stupid. Why do I do this? Got to be so careful. This is the stuff that, you know, is the bottom line, is the work that needs to be done as always on ourselves. So I don't know, is that anyone want to add to anything there?
Yeah, I just think, you know, echoing Joe's, my comments is the more skilled you are, the bigger you need to be, the bigger the louder voice, the negative, the critic becomes smart because we're smart. They'll get smarter as we know the answer. So you've got to be bigger than the critic. I think it's just one of these, you know, we all know these things, don't we, Joe? You know it. You know all these tips and tricks, but you need to be even smarter than that.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, like, in my life at the moment, like, I've had a lot of really big stuff on, which Andrew knows some of what's going on. And when that dies down a bit, I think it's a matter of where you put your effort and your energy and making a priority for finishing off. Well, for me, it'll be finishing off my projects. For others, it might be continuing writing. So I think it's all about not all about. I think part of the picture is also about priority.
Oh, it's 100% about prioritizing, 100%. And the thing, Joe, and, you know, I don't want to diminish what you're going through, but even that voice, even saying, when I get through this, then I will prioritize.
It's only about 3 weeks away. So.
It's dangerous. It's still dangerous, because in 3 weeks, what else is going to be in your life? We don't know what's going to come up and be in our life. And then it's, now I've got to deal with this. So it'll be another 3 weeks. So, and you know,
there'll always be something.
You all know my story. And it's interesting. And this is almost a little bit embarrassing. All of the decisions I've made to do something have been born out of me being in this ridiculous crisis. Yeah. You know, we talked about the clarity of why. When things are going okay in your life, finding your why is much harder. Have you ever noticed that? When things are actually pretty good in your life. I was in $100,000 debt working 7 days a week. Things were not good. I was desperate, you know. So for me, I was lucky I was in $100,000 debt, right? So I had very clear why. I needed to get out of debt and I needed to get out of this life that I was in. And would have been very, very easy to go, well, now's not the time. I'll wait till I'm out of debt. I'll wait till I've solve the cafe. I'll wait. But I wouldn't be sitting here today had I said that. Prioritization, Joe, is the word. What I would challenge is there's time now to prioritize. And that might be 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
But at least
what I realized with the written part, when my son said, can you send me what you've got? Because he wanted the recipes. And there's only 2 that weren't completely finished. So I just decided I'm just going to delete those 2. Who needs an extra 2 anyway? And then it's actually, at least the written part, I can say, yeah, the written part's finished. So as I say, it's probably just now a matter of getting advice as to whether I've got to get professional.
Well, first thing I'd do is I'd go back and read through it again. If I was you, I'd go but prioritize maybe 5-10 minutes a day. That's it. And start going through it, because you'll find you haven't looked at it probably for a little while, and you might want to change some stuff and add some stuff, maybe some of the recipes you want to tweak a little bit. So I'd go through it again, because what that will do is that'll get you feel like you're back engaged. Yeah, get engaged with it again.
Yeah. Well, the thing I've been contemplating,
get emotionally attached to it. Read it and go, this is actually good. Get yourself re-excited, re-energized.
Well, the one that's closer to finished is probably the psych tool. So I've actually wondered, like normally I would charge to do it, but I've actually wondered about putting it to your group, but I haven't checked it with you first. So bear in mind, switch off your ears for a moment. I'm just talking to Andrew. Whether I could ask people in the forum whether they would, be happy to give me maybe 10 minutes at the end of the forum, and I can actually run you through the tool online. You will find out what your Myers-Briggs type is. And get some feedback as to whether it's worth pursuing, because obviously, as I said, I'll probably need to get legal advice as my next step. So would that be okay,
do it
Andrew?
when we've got let's do it in another form when there's more people. So
no, I'm actually happier with smaller numbers.
I'm happy to, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm up for it.
Oh, there you go.
As long as Andrew turns off record, it's all
good.
I'd
have to turn off record, definitely.
You don't want this to go out on social media?
No, I haven't been to the solicitors yet to check the copyright issue.
Okay then.
Joe, I'm also really
sorry, Kaz, you go.
I was just going to say I'm also really interested in your cookery book, because I've got not teenage children, young adult children. One of them tries to cook and she's learning, but something like that would be really good for her, because she's always saying, that recipe that you made when I was little, can you tell me what it is?
Thanks, Karen, because actually the title's still in flux, but at one stage it was called A Young Adult's Cookbook. And the subtitle, I think, was something like a cookbook for people who can't cook yet.
Well, I think there's lots of cookbooks out there, as you know. There are also cookbooks out there for younger people.
Yeah, so it grew out of my son's favorite recipes. So they're not all health recipes, but it grew out of his favorite recipes as the crux of it. And then even when I was first telling him about it, because I kept it secret for about 5 years, and then as I was telling him about it, he'd go, oh, have you put in the recipe for this? Have you put in the recipe for that? And it's got the sorts of foods that, like, even young men who don't like vegetables, for instance, and I don't like to stereotype, and let's call a spade a spade. So it's got stuff in there like that, and it tells them like the utensils they need and how to shop and prepare for it, stuff like that.
And that's important.
Yeah, I don't know about year 9 overseas, but year 9 when they're about 15 is like a write-off in Australia. So I got shocked when my son was in high school about how little he was actually at school doing schoolwork. And I think the school had just decided that, all the hormones kick in and they weren't going to try and do too much formal ed. And I thought it'd be a great year that they should actually be teaching them life skills rather than trying to do formal ed.
Should be life skills.
Definitely.
That's a topic we don't want to get into.
No, that'd be a whole other topic.
That's going to open a can of worms. Anyway.
So thank you all.
So we'll finish a little bit early, and you can do that, Joe. Good. Anyone else want to? Because I want to just come back to, I guess, to the theme, which is obviously self-talk, but also how can you then, if your life's not in the toilet like mine was, how do you really get clarity on what's important when there's, when things are good? They always say the enemy of a great life is a good life.
Because you get happy with
Because
good
you're
enough's
okay.
good enough's good enough.
Yeah, because it's okay. You're comfortable. Like, you're making enough money. Things are okay. Your job's, it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. I'm paying the bills. Everything's, and it takes courage to step out. It takes courage to do something outside. It takes courage to, writing a book, you're putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself out there with the potential of being criticised or whatever.
I've always loved the phrase "feel the fear, but do it anyway."
But you need a reason to do it anyway. This is the key. That's a great saying for sure, but you're not going to do it if there's not a strong inner desire to get past, have the courage to go anyway. So, Jean, you were going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask, what makes you decide to tell people that are around you that you are actually doing it? And do you keep it a secret? I think you mentioned that, or was it you, Karen or Joe, that mentioned that you hadn't, that no one knew about it?
I think you've got to be careful who you tell, because we know the power of association. We know the power of, you want to tell people who you know are going to support and encourage you. They're the people you want to tell, because I think you make it knowledge. If you go, yeah, I'm going to do this, you tell a handful of really trusted people that are going to keep you accountable. That's awesome, Jean. Great. How's it going? Oh, why not? You said you want to do it. You need those kind of friends that are going to say, well, didn't you say that's what you want? Well, come on, chop, get writing. That's what you want. That's the mentor or the accountability partner or whatever. And that's one of the reasons why I run these forums and I mentor people. And a lot of the times when we catch up, when we catch up, we don't talk about it too much, do we? It's just, hey, come on.
I just think it could possibly help with the label as well. With the labeling of I am a writer, and I've got people that know I am a writer.
Yes.
And they question me about it, and they ask me about it, and they're interested in it.
Well, see, the bottom line, if you are writing a book, and so therefore you are a writer.
Yeah.
I mean, what else defines a writer? It's not a qualification, because plenty of people have a qualification and don't write.
It's a bit like asking people if they can draw, and a lot of people will go, "Oh no, I can't draw." And then you say, "Oh, well, can you draw a stick figure?" "Oh yeah, I can draw a stick figure." So it's actually about, it's actually about what expectation and level are you expecting of yourself before you actually say the label's appropriate. Anyone can actually draw. Anyone can play a musical instrument. So,
anyone can sing.
And you can sing.
I can sing. I crack windows, but I can sing. I make all the cats in the neighbourhood start howling. So I can sing. So labels,
I think with labels or identity, it's acknowledging where you are to start with, and having that self-compassion. It's like I would actually call myself someone that can draw, because from a very young age I was given that identity, and I know if I had to pick up a pencil, I've done it for years, I probably could give it a good
give it a good go.
Innate in me, if you want, not innate, you kind of learn if you want. Whereas with writing, that's not. So I've got to be compassionate and start somewhere. And my answer often to the why is the why not. Everyone here has a right to be a writer, and so why not? I know Andrew constantly says I overthink, which is what I do. But it's partly
that's part of it. It comes with it.
It can be quite useful, can be very unhelpful. But kind of why the F not be a writer? You go through these, with you, Joe, I really get it. You go through these aisles, and mine's a bit of it's a self-help book. You go through these aisles and you think, who am I? Who am I? But then who are you not? It's that classic quote, why not have Joe flesh it up on the shelves? Why not? Why not just be there? Life's too short, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And part of it is like thinking, stuff it, I'm just doing it anyway, and that
you grow into the identity. You'll grow into that identity. It's like, they say, there's the saying, I'll believe it when I see it. but it's the other way around.
It's one of my slides.
I'll see it when I believe it. So you grow into that identity. If you say to yourself, "Oh, I'm not a writer," well, you'll never, you'll never start. If I say I'm not a writer, then you're not going to even get started. But when you say I'm a writer, and when you're not writing, you've got to then, you're fixing your mind on something that you do, and you start and you grow into that identity. But, for me as a footballer and a personal trainer, to ever believe that I could be an author was just the craziest thought ever. But I've just grown into that identity. Again, like you, Sue, why not? Why not? Why can't I? I've got a message. I've got a voice. I can talk. Therefore, I can write. Why not? Why can't I write a book?
And a lot of people who aren't qualified in the field write books on different topics. So you just reminded me.
Certainly do.
There's a book called Sweet Poison, which I often recommend to clients. It's about sugar, basically. And the guy that wrote it, David Gillespie, is, I believe, by training, he's actually a lawyer. So,
Wow.
So I think it sold heaps. He went on to write a sequel companion volume to go with it that's more like a workbook. And I don't think there's any requirement.
Stuff. It's like you don't need a qualification to learn about the impact.
Yeah, he
on the
researched.
body.
He went and did
Exactly.
research.
And he probably tried it, used it, he did it himself, and he's got
he did.
Personal experience. So you can't argue with personal experience.
Yeah.
If you've been through it yourself, if you've overcome it, well, you're not qualified. You can't write bullshit. I've lived it. There's no what university can I go to that's going to better qualify me than actually living it and overcoming it. And we've all lived. We've all of us have had so much life experience, and we've gone through stuff, and we've overcome stuff. We've achieved stuff, we've buggered stuff up that we've learned from, all of us. I've always said, that's why I say it's not bad, it's content for your book, right? Like there's nothing bad that happens, it's all content.
Yeah, one of the things that always strikes me, particularly gets reinforced with clients' stories, is that we tend to learn more from our adverse events, from our mistakes. We spend way more time overanalyzing what's gone wrong than we spend over analyzing what's going right. So, it's part of, who we are, I guess.
Yeah. Indeed.
Just wonder, can I pick up on the comment that Joe made about energy? Because I think energy has been one of my things. And sometimes when energy is filled up with things that maybe just come our way. And I think, Joe, if you've got clients and you've got, lots of stuff being thrown your way that you've not necessarily created yourself, energy can drop. And then, then it's all about boundarying how the boundaries of that energy are left to allow some energy to do those 5 minutes. And I completely get the logic that Andrew says about the 5 minutes. It's completely obviously doable. Sat on the loo if you had to, it's just like, but where's the energy, the mental energy? And I, when you go through periods where you do feel completely over full, under full, if you want, whichever way around you want to see it, how important that is. And it is partly priority, but also partly deciding. I don't know if any of you have read I think it's called the 4,000 weeks or whatever it is. It's how many weeks we've got per life on average. And he talks about, it's not about, obviously it is about not doing what you don't want to do, which is often what we do. We do what we don't want to do. But he actually says it's actually about not doing what you do want to do as well. So it's a choice between what you want to do you do, and are you actually not doing what you don't want to do? And ending up giving up some things that you've kind of had on your wish list, but actually giving them up for the other things that matter. And it's quite a sobering, it was a really good podcast, but sobering kind of listen, but it almost it is very optimistic, because the point is that it's being present with the things that really matter. And a quote recently was only matters if you make it matter. It's like, what is it that matters, and what are you going to not do that you really want to do? And that was like, well, that's back to what Andrew says all the time. It's like, what is it? What is the shiny object that you're going to put in the bin, and not do?
Comes back to, it'll come, or I think it all, and the energy thing is obviously a lot of things that contribute to energy. But I think when you have hope, when you see a vision, when you can see how, when I'm there, that's going to, that certainly gave me energy when I could see, I had hope of, okay, I can change my circumstances. I can impact lives, and I can create choices for myself. That gave me a lot of energy. It's amazing where I found energy from to be able to do that. So there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
And sometimes with the emotional energy, even if you don't have the energy to do it every single day, like write 500 words every day, if you don't have that, even if you just do one thing every day, like make a phone call to your lawyer. You get your free 15 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes or whatever it is. You just keep pushing through and keep going. And it does come back to why you're doing it.
Yep. They say, I love the saying, motivation will get you started, but it's habit that'll keep you going. Because I think a lot of people I wasn't motivated today, so I didn't do anything. You don't want to rely on energy or motivation. You've got to rely on habit. But habit will take that 63 days, right? We know that every day. Well, I couldn't be bothered today, but do it. Couldn't be bothered today, but do it. Refocus. Why am I doing this? What's the vision? Okay, yep, I can do 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, anything. Touch it. Touch the book. I love that little thought. Anyway, I think, Jen, I hope this has been useful for you.
It has, very much so. Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, look, I think the bottom line is, right, let me just tell you that becoming an author has been the most amazing decision, the thing I'm most grateful for in my life from a professional point of view. And, I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm proud of, but the decision to write the book, the most illogical decision I've ever made. I look back now and think everything that's great now in my life, I can track it back to that decision to do it and follow through on it. So, I say this to people all the time, that's not something to put off. The life that I was able to create as a result of being an author, and the book, and the doors that opened, and the confidence, as Karen said, she talked about confidence, the confidence it gave me, the doors that opened, the opportunities that came my way that enabled me within a very short period of time to get out of debt and get out of a personal training career. That's why I think, get this thing done, because once it's done, your life is going to change in so many ways.
Gosh, and I thought you gave up personal training because of me. Good to hear. I've known him that long. It's all right.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, Jane? So
yeah.
So it's just, what I'm saying is, it's so worth it. So worth it.
It's just, amazing. I think, just touching, like you say, touching base, or touching the book of your own book, and just kind of reminding yourself is like you say, it's energizing. Just going back and thinking, and these kind of conversations are energizing. So it's just knowing where the touch points are that matter most, which is, because before this morning it was like, oh, I really, I know this is going to be really important. I need to get on this, which I have. But there's a kind of how much energy per time effort. This is like here, and time is there. So it's that 2 minutes of having a read of the title or the intro is going to bump your energy batteries up. So thank you for everybody. I think,
Cool.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so what we'll do, so thank you everyone for sharing. I'll stop recording.